Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Yankees History and Heroes. I'm Lynn from the Upper Deck, which is part of the Pinstripe Chronicles group, and I'm joined here by my good friend Spencer, who we like to call the resident historian of the Pinstripe Chronicles family. Spencer, how you doing tonight? Spencer, can you hear me? Spencer, are you able to hear me, Spencer? Spencer. Spencer, you can't seem to hear me, and my audio is working fine on my end. Oh, okay, got it. I texted in the chat that we're having tech problems, and that will be with them shortly. No worries. Sometimes leaving the studio and coming back helps if you want to try that.
Text Lynn. Rebooted and restarted.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay, I
Yep.
hear you too.
Excellent.
All right, we've had our introduction. Thank you, dear. As my wife, Irina, who helped get us on, helping her visually impaired husband, greatly appreciated. All right.
Awesome. So I am going to put my camera back on, and here we go.
All
So, so we were just beginning to say, and thanks everyone for your patience and hanging
Thank
in
you.
there.
Yeah.
Technology is what it is, and it follows me around like it's my child. So I do apologize. We're going to have a bit of a time travel across from as early as 1915 all the way to the 2000 World Series, which, if you do the math, and I'm sure you can, it's the 25th anniversary this year of that World Series. So, Spencer, you wanted to kick us off here?
You know, Lynn, I do. Before we go back in time, so our friends can understand, we were having a little discussion. The word controversy came up. I think controversy is interesting. I don't want to get too deep into this, but let's talk about recent Yankee heroes and recent history just for a few quick minutes now. What I'm referring to is our fan favorite, Derek Jeter. If you've been watching the Yankees games, you have noticed that our captain, Derek Jeter, has now become a paid spokesperson for BetMGM Sports. They euphemistically describe him as an ambassador. Ambassador sounds much better than paid spokesman. Considering how Derek Jeter has always cultivated a very clean, non-controversial image, I found it very interesting to see that he is now serving as a spokesperson or ambassador, whichever your cup of tea is, for BetMGM Sports. I am not the moral police. I understand that gaming and gambling for a lot of people is fun, I guess, if you want to call it fun. I don't gamble myself. I hate to even lose $1. But he is associating himself with a service that we, of course, know leads a lot of people into trouble. If I was the conscience of Derek Jeter, I would say you really don't have to get associated with a gambling website. And I even wonder why it is that he'd be compelled to get with a gambling website. Again, I'm not saying he did anything bad, but it seems very out of character for Derek Jeter. What's your thoughts on these BetMGM Derek Jeter spokesperson ads, Lynn?
So I'm right in step with you on this, Spencer. I think that it, and certainly none of us have any insight into the true character of Derek Jeter. We have what we know, and let's face it, glorify the player, the generational player that he was, and the captain that he was, and everything he accomplished during the dynasty years.
Yeah.
I think as a fan, like you and I are, Spencer, we place him on a higher level in our mind, and not necessarily a business as a business person. And also just assumed that he was forever a Yankee. And it has become more and more to light over the years that he has distanced himself further and further from the Yankees organization.
Yeah.
So I believe really it started with purchasing the Marlins, and really just took off from there. And most recently, coming out on Monday Night Football. Listen to me. I'm thinking about how the Bills were trounced last night on Baseball Tonight, when he backed up A-Rod with talking about Boone and the difficulties that the management has been and front office has had with managing the team this year.
Well, you hit on something very interesting. That's one thing that I speculated, because Derek Jeter, he fronted a lot of money when he took over the Marlins. And the only thing that I can think of for why he would enter into an agreement with BetMGM Sports, a gambling sports. I've got to believe that gambling, especially gambling on sports, gambling on players, I think that goes very much against the fabric of Derek Jeter. I would be very surprised if I had a private conversation with him and he said, yeah, I like to bet on sports. I like to bet on the Super Bowl. I like to bet on players. That just does not seem like something that Derek Jeter would do. And I wouldn't be surprised if the cash and money fallout from the Marlins is one of the reasons that fueled him to enter into this agreement. Again, he could get a sponsorship with anyone, but I guess gambling is it's easy money. They're probably paying him a lot of money. We know that Wayne Gretzky also serves as an ambassador. Let's just call it what it is, a spokesperson, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of the euphemisms. But I just thought that was interesting, but you don't hear it really being talked about, and I'm sure like Yankees fans have an opinion on it. Maybe we'll hear more about this, and maybe people in the chat will write their thoughts in it. Anyway, are we ready?
Yes, let's do it.
Are we ready to go back in time? Back in time.
Yes.
We have landed. We are near the turn of the century. What's going on there? Some background noise. Am I waking the neighbors? So, Lynn, I want to ask you something. Did you ever hear of a player named George Herman Babe Ruth?
George Herman Babe.
Yeah.
Ruth?
Yeah. Like Baby Ruth, the candy bar.
Oh, yes, I've heard of the candy bar.
Okay,
I like it. It's one of my favorites. Yes. I think I'm a little bit familiar. He was some old guy from like the olden days, right?
He was a pretty big power hitter, right? Hit a lot of home runs. Set the Major League Baseball record of 59, then 60 home runs. Well, we know that he came to the Yankees in 1920. Is that, am I correct in that?
Yes, it was it was right after the 1920 season. He was acquired in the off season.
We have an educated audience, so we know that they know who Babe Ruth is, and we know where he stands in the fabric of baseball history. And of course, Babe Ruth, he changed the game. He saved the game of baseball because of his power hitting and his home runs, not just because he hit home runs, but his home runs were so towering. I think his first year with the Yankees, he hit 29 home runs, and that was at the time a record in baseball. And if it was, of course, a record for the Yankees. So it begets the question: who was the Yankee that held the home run record for the team before Babe Ruth? Isn't that what it makes you think of?
It does. It sounds like a great trivia question of the week.
And I think our audience is going to be very surprised when they hear the answer, because it is actually a player that we all know. I mean, everybody knows who used to hold the Yankee home run record before Babe Ruth joined the team. And that was Wally Pipp. You've heard of Wally Pipp, right?
Wally Pipp. Yes.
Wally Pipp. What do you think of when you think of Wally Pipp?
Well, as I look at the image I just shared on the screen, I'm thinking of a very strong, athletic player who had great prowess both in his position at first base, right, as well as behind, at the plate with his bat.
But we know, what do most Yankees fans think of when they think of the name Wally Pipp? What is the first thing that comes to every Yankees fan's mind?
That he ended up losing that position at first base due to another player of great consequence.
Exactly. He was the player that Lou Gehrig replaced at first base, which set Gehrig onto the path to play his Major League Baseball record of 2,130 consecutive games in baseball, which was a monumental record. And of course, we know Cal Ripken broke it in 1995, and it is one of the everlasting records in baseball. and one of the everlasting stories in baseball. It's also it tells a great story on a deeper level about life and about waking up and doing your job and going to work. Going to work even when you don't feel like going to work. But
Yeah.
Wally Pipp, of course, we know is the guy that Gehrig replaced, and unfortunately, Wally Pipp has mostly been associated in a very not not a positive light. I think when fans hear how he was replaced by Gehrig, they probably think he didn't have enough heart, didn't play hard enough. He
Yep.
was selfish, took himself out of the lineup. And I think it doesn't create a true capture of his character. But that's really the first thing that really surprised me. Yes, before Babe Ruth joined the team, Wally Pipp was the Yankee record holder in home runs. Now,
Yep.
how many home runs did he have? Well, in 1915, I believe he hit a walloping 12 home runs. That was 12 dingers, and that set the Yankees all-time record at that time. And then a couple of years later, in 1917, well, he didn't do quite as well as he did in 1915, but he hit a Major League Baseball leading 9 home runs.
Can you imagine that?
I mean,
Anyone?
I need almost all the fingers on my hands to count that up. 9 home runs. But yes, Wally Pipp.
Yep.
He was the Yankee. He was the face of power on the Yankees at the time.
And
So
along comes Ruth and wrecks it for him.
exactly. So we're trying to salvage Wally Pipp's
Yes.
reputation a little bit tonight. That's what our goal is, because he was more than just a guy who had a headache. Wally Pipp actually was a good player. He was a great teammate. He played in the World Series, and he was a guy that you wanted to have on your team. He was a great first baseman as well. So, Lynn, what kind of information can you tell us? What are some of the highlights you can tell us about Wally Pipp?
Well, one of the things that made Wally Pipp, before we talk about Wally Pipp, the player, and I have statistics to back up what you just said, Spencer.
Okay.
There would be no Lou Gehrig were it not for Wally Pipp.
That's right.
Because it was Wally Pipp who scouted him while he was playing on the baseball team for Columbia University.
Mm-hmm.
And he walked right into Miller Huggins, the manager at the time, office and said, "You need to sign this guy." And guess what? Huggins took him at his word and did.
Yeah.
And so it's irony, and yet that it's destiny.
Yeah.
That there's no coincidences in life, even when there are, ends up being against you in some way of consequence, right?
Yeah.
Wally Pipp's part of his destination in life, unknown to him, was to bring forward one of the greatest Yankees and MLB player of all time.
Now, he wasn't always on the Yankees, right? Who did he play for before signing with the Yankees?
He began with the Detroit Tigers before he came to the Yankees.
So he probably played with Ty Cobb.
Yes. Yep. At that time. Yeah, absolutely. So let me just tell you why I could back up everything you said about he was a good, solid player. So first of all, he's a World Series champion.
Yeah.
So he played a total of 1,872 games as a New York Yankee.
Wow.
And across his 3 seasons, he had a 300-plus batting average and 2 seasons with 100 or more RBI.
Yeah.
So, again, this is just at the precipice of Babe Ruth showing people what a power hitter was really like.
Yeah.
But these numbers for RBIs would still be considered good today.
Yeah.
In a season,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and his career batting average was 281. Listen, I know there's a lot of current Yankees that would die to have a 281 batting average.
Yeah.
Like Wally Pipp did for his career. And to this day, he has a record that hasn't been broken, Spencer.
Tell us that record.
And that his record is his 226 sacrifices as a Yankee. And that
So he's in the
remains
Yankee
a
record
New
book.
York Yankee record to this day.
Wally Pipp is notable. He was on the first Yankees team to get into their very first World Series.
Yep, absolutely. And
So that's
he
a
was
very special class.
it is. And there's one more special thing. Actually, I'm sure there's many more than what I was able to uncover, but he was the first Yankee to lead the American League in home runs in the history of the Yankees. Now, let me just be clear that when we say history of the Yankees, that brings us to around 1913, because prior to that, they were the Highlanders. But still in all, he was the first to lead the league in home runs. So there was some power behind him as well.
Yeah. And he was a good first baseman also. He knew how to handle the grounders. He knew how to dig out the balls, the throws, from third base and from shortstop.
Yep. And he was also, quite the, mangy kind of guy when he gets challenged, because there was a kerfuffle in the dugout between Ruth and him, the story goes. And,
tell us that story.
So now that we just said that he was a really good first baseman, in one game he had the nerve to bobble a ball at first base, and when they got back to the dugout, Ruth had some words for him about that play, and Wally Pipp just threw fists right away, just like, oh no, you didn't. And they, when they separated them, Ruth said, "We'll settle this after the game." and so, Pipp was like, at the end of the game, he was like, "Bring it." And he went right up to Ruth, and Ruth said, "Nah, never mind. We're good."
Do we know, did Wally Pipp, did he have a uniform number? Before you answer that, we know that the Yankees were the first team to have uniform numbers. We know that the uniform numbers at that time corresponded to where the batters were placed in the lineup. That's why Ruth is 3 and Gehrig is 4. Do we know, did he have a uniform number? And if so, do we know what it is?
I didn't find that. And the one picture I found that I put up on the screen, it's just literally just pinstripes. There isn't even a Yankee logo on it. So, no, I wouldn't know if he did or not. And, I would assume then whatever his lineup. And isn't that interesting, Spencer, what you just said about it was 3 because that was his spot, and Gehrig at cleanup. That would never happen in the way the roster construction goes with the Yankees these days.
Yeah.
They'd be changing their numbers every day.
Yeah, they'd have to switch numbers, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's an interesting story about his confrontation with Babe Ruth, because I think the impression that a lot of Yankees fans have of Wally Pipp, again, was that, the guy was maybe a little bit flaky, maybe not really a team player, maybe a little bit lazy. And it's all because of that one moment, which isn't even true. The legend is he took himself out of the game and was replaced by Gehrig, and he took himself out of the game citing a headache. But that's not the case. Tell the audience why he took himself out of the game, or why he was taken out of the game.
He was taken out of the game because he had wrecked his foot, not even anywhere near a ballpark. He was getting off of a train in Boston and injured his right ankle, and in those days, to get on the IL, you had to basically be near death. But anyway, no, he said he sat himself out. Because I think, and to me, what that says about him is that, he cared for the team. He knew that he wasn't at 100%. So, he sacrificed himself. He could have toughed it through like literally every player the stories say, did back then. And this generation's players are, quote, soft. But he was different that way, and I really would like to think that that's because that's who he was as a person and how much he loved the team.
It's very interesting. I'm glad that we took this dive into the life and the playing career of Wally Pipp, and I'm glad that we're able to share with our fellow Yankees fans and to expose the truth about him. He was a very good player. He was instrumental in getting the Yankees to their first World Series. He was on the first Yankees World Series team. I mean, think about that. We love the Yankees history. Here it is. It's 2025. What are fans saying? If you go on the radio or if you talk to your fellow Yankees fans, you'll hear them say things like, this team does not look like a World Series team. Remember those three teams from the 1990s that won the three World Series in a row? The Yankees, it's World Series or bust. George Steinbrenner always used to say, win the World Series or the season is a failure. How did we get to this point? It all starts with that first World Series, and the players that are in that class really deserve recognition. And it's really something that, if you like your history, it is something worth taking a deep dive into. And it's something that I think Yankee fans should consider. What about the first World Series? Title or no title, the first World Series to me is very interesting. Now, Lynn, was that first World Series? Can you confirm that was against the New York Giants?
Yes, I can confirm that. It was against the New York
Okay.
Giants, and the Giants took us.
Okay. And this was in Yankee Stadium, which at this time was brand new. Am I correct in that? Am I talking about the right World Series?
I'm not exactly sure about that.
Okay. Well, let's just say that it is.
Yeah,
So the
let's.
Yankees, so in the house that Ruth built, 19 was it 1923? I think it's 1923. Listen, we're talking about the first, Yankee Stadium when it was newly built, and the main objective of this discussion is talking about the Yankees and now in their first World Series. And Yankee Stadium, of course, is referred to as the house that Ruth built. Correct?
Correct.
Correct. I think it's interesting when you look at that first World Series against the Giants. The irony is that although Ruth changed the game and changed the Yankees with his home runs, and just a little sidebar to this, people in the cities that he would go to against the teams that the Yankees would play against, people would flock and fill up the stadiums to see this guy Ruth. This guy Ruth, he had power like they had never seen before. He had home runs like they had never seen before. And he got the Yankees into their first World Series. And it's interesting to me how in their first World Series in Yankee Stadium,
Yes, which
the
I have
very first
confirmed,
home run
by
in
the
a
way.
the very first home run in Yankee Stadium in a World Series game was not hit by Babe Ruth, but it was hit by, again, somebody else that every Yankee fan knows. You want to tell everybody who this Yankee player is, Lynn?
No, I really don't know.
Well, I will do it then.
Yes.
Casey Stengel. Casey
Oh,
Stengel.
what a coincidence!
What a coincidence, right? We're going to talk a little bit about Casey coming up. But Casey Stengel, now you all know Casey as the Yankee manager who won 5 World Series in a row with the team in the 1950s, who managed Joe DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle and Ollie Reynolds and Whitey Ford. And when his days with the Yankees were done, we know that he was the first manager of the New York Mets. And for people of a certain generation, they remember seeing that interview with Casey saying, when you join the Mets, call the Mets Metsy. Metsy. Remember that? He's wearing the big Mets jacket. He's got the big ears and the Mets hat. That's what you think of when you think of Casey Stengel. You don't think of a player with a bat in physical condition, athletic, no less, hitting a home run in a World Series game. But Casey Stengel hit the very first home run in a Yankee Stadium World Series game, and he did it very, very late in the game too. He did it in the ninth inning, and I think it gave the Giants a win. I think they won the game 1-0. That might have been the only run. But the point is, he is the one who hit the first home run in a World Series game in the house that Ruth built. What do you think about that?
I think learning what I've learned about him
Yeah.
when we decided our topics for this episode, um, I can really see all of that because he was quite a character.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the best possible sense of the word.
Sure.
And I came to find that now I feel some similarities in personality between Stengel and Yogi Berra because
Yeah.
he had some quotes that kind of reminded me of like something Yogi Berra would say. So interesting thing about Casey Stengel, I know I'm going a little bit off track, but
Sure.
ride with me. You especially will like this, Spencer.
I'm loving it.
His Stengel's parents wanted him to be a dentist, and weren't really on board with this whole baseball thing. And when he got married, even his wife made him continue dental school in the off season. So here's a quote towards the end of his career. I want to thank my parents for letting me play baseball, and I'm thankful I had baseball knuckles and couldn't become a dentist.
He's lucky, yeah.
So like he was a real character.
Yeah. Any chance you found anything interesting on his playing career? We don't have to get too crazy with it. I think that's the most interesting thing as far as like, where he is as a player in the fabric of Yankees history. But anything you found out about him?
Well, other than his history as a player,
Yeah.
like you said, he was with the Brooklyn Dodgers, crosstown rival, eventually. So 1912 through 1917 with them, and then he became part of the Boston Braves after that. So and then he had in between there, he spent some time with both Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
So
he played for a number.
Right. And so never played as a Yankee, but that came with his perhaps what he's most well known for, like
of course,
you alluded to already, is his managerial chops that he earned.
Yeah. It's really interesting about Casey Stengel. Again, this is to sort of open up our eyes to see him as more than just this cutesy manager who might have some interesting one-liners, might talk like a guy, working class guy from Brooklyn. He was actually a very intelligent person. I mean, obviously, even back in the turn of the century, you still had to be pretty smart to get into a dental school. Can you imagine getting traction from Casey Stengel?
Imagine.
I'm glad he went into baseball also. I'm glad he had the problem with his knuckles. So that was a good thing. But this has been real interesting. It's just very interesting to know, like, he hit the first home run in Yankee Stadium in a World Series, and Wally Pipp was the original Yankee home run leader before Babe Ruth came on. So it's a real cool dive into to Yankees history. Makes you think as a Yankees fan, right?
It absolutely does. And, as a manager, he led the Yankees to 7 World Series championship. And as you mentioned, some of those were in sequence with each other.
Oh, yeah.
So his first championship was in 49. And then 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, all the way through to 1960.
Yeah.
So that was a total of 7 championships, and the losses were 54. They didn't make it. They lost in 55. So that's where we broke the consecutive. The consecutive was between 49 and 53.
I wonder if Casey Stengel ever reflected on that moment in October in 1956. Right before the Yankees were supposed to play the Brooklyn Dodgers, putting that baseball into the shoe of the locker of Don Larson. We all know the story about how Larson found out he was pitching I think it was game 6 uh, that day, and pitched his famous perfect game, the only perfect game ever in a World Series. But if I could go back in time and talk with Casey Stengel, I would really just love to hear his thoughts about, when he made the decision to give Larson the ball. Was there any question of giving the ball to another pitcher? Was he vacillating between Larson and somebody else? After Larson pitched the perfect game, did he ever think to himself, boy, if I hadn't given him the ball, he would have never pitched that perfect game, and it would have changed the course of baseball history and Yankees history. I wonder if he ever thought to himself, I may not be the guy that got a stat, but I had something to do with one of the greatest moments in baseball history. That's what I would like to ask Casey Stengel if he was alive, if I had a
Yeah.
chance to him.
And you know what? If Casey Stengel and Wally Pipp were to have a conversation, there's a parallel with what you just said, Spencer, because like we just discussed earlier, without a Wally Pipp, there would be no Lou Gehrig.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
And so I see the parallel there. Do you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. These are two great characters, and I would suggest to all Yankees fans, look up these guys and look up some other guys also. You don't always have to look up the stars of the game. Sometimes it's really interesting to read about, the utility players, the asset players too. I mean, you could really find some interesting stories, and all of these guys had an impact on baseball history and on Yankees history. Lynn, shall we?
Yes.
Shall we blast to the future,
Are we gonna put everybody in the what car was that in Back to the Future?
1995, 96, 97.
98, 99,
We start
2000.
with the year 2000.
2000. Woof! I'm a little dizzy, but I'm okay.
Yes, me
We're
too.
here.
My fingers are a little cramped also from all those keys. Our feature player today that we want to put the spotlight on, especially in the wake of the recent Old Timers Day, of the celebration of the 25th anniversary of the year 2000 New York Yankees. We're going to talk tonight, a twosome actually. We're going to talk about Dwight Gooden, and we want to talk about David Justice. I'll begin because I remember David Justice was a trade acquisition in the year 2000. And at the time that he joined the team, the Yankees were not bad, but they weren't playing lights out, and they certainly did not look like a team that had just won 2 World Series in a row. They were in about I think they were in first place, but I think they were struggling to hold on to first place at the time that he joined the team. But anybody who remembers that season remembers the impact that David Justice had on the team. You remember the impact?
Yes, I absolutely do. And I know that you're going to talk about it, but for one thing, he was the MVP of the American League Championship Series that year.
Yeah, rightfully so.
Yeah,
rightfully so. He definitely changed the team, and what I get out of David Justice is that it works against the edict that on a baseball team, one player does not make a team. It's not one player that can make a difference. Well, something, he made a difference. He really made a big difference, and he made a big contribution to that team, and he helped them on their path to finishing and holding on to the regular season. I would be remiss to talk about 2000 if we didn't talk about that September. On the whole, in my opinion, the year 2000 team, while I enjoyed that World Series, but if you scrutinize it honestly, in my opinion, that was the luckiest of the 3 World Series that they had won. Even though when you look at the overall number of games, they won it 4-1. But if you scrutinize that series, the Yankees and the Mets, they were low-scoring games, except for Game 2, but I'll give my thoughts on that in a moment. those teams required the teams to play as clean a baseball game as possible. And the Yankees were really fortunate to finish it out in 5 games. But the first game, I think it was 3-2 they won. Game 2, they won 6-5. But remember, they went into the 9th inning with a 6-0 lead, and the Mets stormed back and they scored 5 runs before Mariano was finally able to close it out. Game 3, the Mets won 4-2. Game 4, the Yankees won 3-1. That was where Jeter hit the first pitch off of Bobby Jones, and the Yankees held on to win 3-1. And of course, we know what happened in Game 5. It was tied 2-2 into the 9th inning. Luis Sojo hit the 2-run double to score the Yankees and to ultimately help the Yankees win. But that was a very, very tense World Series. But again, David Justice, he really helped make it happen in that postseason run. And you mentioned how he was the league MVP player. Well, one of the reasons why he was not the league, but the ALCS MVP was because, first of all, after Game 1 against the Mariners, the Yankees lost that game 2-0. I was there. Freddie Garcia pitched for the Mariners. Remember him?
Mm-hmm.
And the Mariners, I don't know if it was a 2-run homer, but one of their players hit a bomb into left field. That player that hit that bomb of a home run, Alex Rodriguez.
Wow.
So the Mariners, they went up 1-0 in that series. Keep in mind also, the Yankees are still not too far from their terrible September when they went 3-14. They looked like they weren't even going to make the playoffs.
Sounds familiar.
Yes. It's not only this team or current teams. This happens all throughout baseball history.
Yeah.
But I remember that series against Oakland, and he got a couple of key hits in that series. In the Oakland series, the Yankees lost Game 1 as well, and they were still not looking so good going into Game 2. But he got a key hit that scored the runs for the Yankees and helped them win Game 2. And then the Yankees, of course, went on to win Game 3. But Oakland, they won I remember they destroyed the Yankees in Game 4. I think it was like 11-1. And that was the night where the Yankees and the A's flew back to Oakland the very next night to play that Game 5. That wouldn't happen today. What do you think about that?
No, we need our naps and our milk and cookies.
Yeah. But the Yankees, they scored the 6 runs in the first inning of Game 5. They held on to win it 7-5. The Oakland A's came storming back. But David Justice, he got key hits in all of those games, and he really helped the Yankees out. We would have not gotten that championship if it were not for David Justice. He changed the team.
Absolutely. And like you said earlier, Spencer, he saved September for the Yankees, though. I mean, he had I think it was like around 40 home runs that season.
Mm-hmm.
In the regular season. He was a power hitter guy.
Yeah.
But he also knew how to hit that line drive when needed to get guys in. But he 40 even as well, for people like me, that seems like yesterday for me. Back in those days, that was a big number. Pre 25 years before Aaron Judge. So he was really of consequence in that way as well. I would assume, I don't have a verified fact here about this, but he probably led the team in home runs that year.
I don't have a verification of that, but it would not surprise me. Listen, another thing I remember David Justice for in a non-Yankees situation is he hit the game-winning home run in Game 6 in the 1995 World Series for the Atlanta Braves.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the only run of the game. So David Justice, he had been in clutch situations like that before, and he played for the Indians. I think even in the season before as well. So he went from the Indians to the Braves, and then he went on to play for the Yankees, and he became a real fan favorite. People love David Justice.
Yep, absolutely, because he was clutch.
Yeah.
when it mattered. And everybody loves them a home run, and
Yeah.
he had plenty. Yeah.
Now we all remember Dwight Gooden. He was a reclamation project, personal reclamation project by George Steinbrenner. Originally came back with the Yankees in
6.
1996. We
Mhm.
know that he pitched that remarkable no hitter against the Mariners. We all see that image of the Yankees carrying him off the mound and Dwight Gooden, in triumph,
Yeah.
celebrating with his teammates. But he was sort of on and off the Yankees during that period, and Dwight actually came back as an acquisition. And I recall it being around. It was getting close to the All-Star break, and the Yankees, their record was dropping. It was slowly getting towards a 500 record, and they were going into playing a series against the Mets of all teams. And Dwight Gooden came in and he won the game for the Yankees. He sort of helped, stop the bleeding, so to say. And
Mhm.
thereafter, the Yankees were able to build themselves a 5-game lead, then a 6-game lead, a 7-game lead. So he was really instrumental in helping to save the Yankees, provide a little bit of stability for them, and to put them on the path to ultimately get to that World Series championship.
Yeah. Could I share some his stats from '96 for a sec?
Please, please, please.
So he ended '96 at 11-7, and that was his first winning record since
Yeah.
'91. And he went 10 for 2 with a 3.09 ERA from April 27th through August 12th.
Mm-hmm.
And we also should remember, we've talked about this in a prior episode. This was a time when David Cohn was out because he had the aneurysm in his shoulder. And Doc Gooden literally, stepped up to the plate, but in this case, the rubber,
Yeah.
for the Yankees.
He towed the slab.
He absolutely towed that slab, and that's what Coney loves to say, during that period, and really, saved what would have been a horrible, gap in the
Yeah.
rotation, by stepping up the way he did, because
Yeah.
Coney was a big loss when that
Yeah.
happened. Yeah, just wanted to share that.
Dwight Gooden for me is a special player because my age group considered. Uh, Dwight was a player who I first saw as a youngster, and at the time he retired, I was an adult. So he was a player that stood out, and he was a player that I grew up with and matured with, and went from seeing it from the eyes of a youngster, of an elementary student, to the eyes of an adult, where you're wiser and you know a little bit more about the world, and some truths about the world, centered around his struggles and his addictions. But when he came to the team in 1996, it was one of those situations where I stepped back and I thought, man, like I was a kid when I first saw him, and the one constant in my life where baseball is concerned is, not the one constant, but he is one of those constants, still in the game. There was still him. There was still Dave Winfield. There was still Tippy Martinez,
Right.
a lot of players, that are, again, being in elementary school, and then these guys are still there. And of course, as you get older, you sort of learn that, the way baseball works and all sports work is player careers don't last forever. Eventually their careers come to an end, and then there are a new set of players. This is getting onto a whole other thing, and I don't want
Right.
to do that.
Yeah.
But that's where Dwight is special to me. Him, Darryl
Yes.
Strawberry. I knew these guys when I was when I was a youngster, and it was just really cool. Don Mattingly too. Don Mattingly.
Right. And with Doc Gooden and Strawberry as well, I like to think of them frozen in that time.
Yeah.
Because both of them, and you alluded to this, both of them had their demons, from addiction.
Yeah.
And unfortunate, we're focusing on Doc Gooden here. Unfortunately for him, that continued, far into the 2020s, as it is.
Yeah.
And so I I think about what he could have been
Yeah.
post player. And just even imagine Doc Gooden in the booth, or
Yeah.
as a pitching coach there.
Sure.
And so that is very unfortunate, and I would even call it tragic in some ways.
Yeah.
And but that moment in time, and Spencer, I have on the screen exactly what you were describing.
Hmm.
It's the image of Joe Girardi
Yeah.
lifting up. Now think of the
That's
difference in the
great.
height between Girardi and Doc Gooden.
Yeah.
And Girardi has him up in the air.
That's such a great moment.
And that exultant, the glove up in the air from
Yeah.
Gooden. That's the picture forever in my mind.
I remember he pitched against the Yankees in 1998. Again, remember he joined the Yankees and then he wasn't re-signed, and then I remember he got picked up with Cleveland. I think he pitched in the 1997 playoffs. I don't think he was in the World Series, but I remember him being with Cleveland. And I just remember thinking, well, I don't know if I remember thinking myself, but I would have thought, well, here it is, 1997, and this is a guy who pitched in the 1986 World Series. And hey, don't forget about the 1988 National League Championship Series. I mean, it didn't end for the Mets the way they would have wanted it to, but it's like you're still at an age where you have an innocence to you in watching baseball and watching these games. So I was happy for him in that sense also, that again, with all the changes happening in baseball, he was one of the constants. He was still there, and I was happy when he was on the Yankees in 2000. And kind of makes you wish that players could play forever, and that you
Right.
know, and that we could all beat Father Time.
Right, and it's just a reminder that I know I need every now and then, that they are human.
Yeah.
What we talked about Jeter a little while ago, and deciding to sign up, with MGM, betting, right?
Yeah.
Did I say that right? MGM. That's how removed I am
And
from betting.
sports bet. Listen, I'm
Sports,
not a
yeah,
gambler, so I don't
right.
really
No,
know,
me
and quite
neither.
frankly, I don't want to know.
Listen, when I used to have to go with my grandmother on those bus trips to Atlantic City, and you get that roll of quarters,
Yeah.
I learned from her, when that roll is done, you're done.
Yeah.
Um, but Spencer, I would love for everyone listening that may not have like the memory from being there that we might have. I wanted to just name some of the names in the on the Game 5 roster from that
Sure.
2000 World Series. And I think some of these are going to ring a bell even for our younger listeners, and most definitely bring back some memories for those that remember it from real time. So we had Jose Vizcaíno at second base.
Yeah.
He went 0 for 3 that game. Mike Stanton was one of the relievers. He was the first reliever
Yeah.
before Mariano closed the game.
Yeah.
And let's see, we had Derek Jeter at short, 4 at bats, and he had a homer and a hit,
Yeah.
and an RBI. David Justice, unfortunately, just had 1 hit out of his 4 at bats that time, but he had done enough to get us where we were. And then there was a player called Bertie Williams.
Yeah.
And there's a great trivia question. I'll talk to you about it offline, Spencer, about
Okay.
Bertie Williams in Game 5. But so, he went 3 for 3 that
Yeah.
game. Anyone remember Tino Martinez? That name ring a bell?
I like
Even
to
you
call him
wouldn't
Tino
remember
Martinez.
him? And Paul O'Neill? Hell, you listen to the Yes Network, Paul O'Neill. Jorge Posada, Scotty Brocious. Andy Pettit was the starting pitcher for Game 5. And then, as you mentioned earlier, Luis Soho, who was really floundering at different points during the road to the championship.
Yeah.
And he really is the one that hit that, home run that made the difference.
Double, but yes,
Double,
same
rather.
difference.
Yeah.
Same difference. Yeah.
It's getting late for me, and I'm old. Yeah, so
One player that was on the Yankees, and nobody remembers this, but Jose Canseco, and Jose Canseco for me, has a special place, in my baseball mind because Jose Canseco hit a foul ball in a game against the Twins that I attended. And the foul ball, I was sitting in the upper deck on the first base side, hit just off the tip of my fingers. And the person behind me, the two girls, they got the ball. They recovered it. Let me tell you something. My fingertips hurt for about a week. He hit the ball with so much power. So that's one thing that I remember about that. But that was also the last game I attended with my father to a Yankees game. So that's why Jose, holds a special place for me. So, he gets a little bit of criticism. He gets, ragged on. But, Jose, he's okay in my book, and I'll forgive him for whatever discrepancies that he has. I wish he was more in the Yankee fabric. It would have been cool actually if he had come back to the reunion. But I think we also know that he sold his World Series ring. He didn't really feel like he was a part of the team. He knew why the Yankees got him also. The Yankees got him off of waivers so that the Boston Red Sox would not get him. But boy, I wish circumstances were better because what a power hitter that guy was, and
Right.
interesting character too.
Yeah, we'd be highlighting him if some different choices happened, but that's what this whole episode has really been about, is the timing and that there's no coincidences and fate is fate. And we certainly got through that between Wally Pipp and Casey Stengel and Gooden and Justice.
All right, Lynn, I know that we're getting late here, but let's before we go, let's just go quickly. Let's take a little ride into the future. A little bit in the
Again?
future. I don't want to hold this too long. We won't.
I'm getting car sick. Go
Rob
ahead.
Manfred was on the Little League Classic last night, made some remarks about league realignment. I actually called the Michael Kay show, and I spoke to Michael Kay myself and gave him my views on this.
Wow.
About league realignment. On Twitter, whenever you see one of those posts that asks, if you were commissioner, what would one rule be that you would change? And I have consistently written, whenever I respond to those types of posts, that radical league realignment would be something that I would do. Now, the plan for the league would be to make, let's just call them divisions right now, divisions with 4 teams in different regions. And specifically for our Yankees, they would be in a division with the Mets, the Phillies, and one other team. I forget which team that would be. So that's the only thing that I would sort of disagree with on that. But I'm actually okay with league realignment. I also told Michael, a lot of people today, they'd be worried about the complete loss of the American League and the National League. My response to that, my opinion on that is the American League and National League, they exist only in name today. As far as them being actual leagues, it just does not exist. It does break my heart to say that because our hero, Aaron Judge, is cited as the all-time home run leader in the American League with his 62 home runs. But I even think he understands that, that's only if you validate the existence of the American League. If we're being honest with ourselves, in my opinion, neither of the leagues really exist anymore. And therefore, by realigning the teams, you're not putting at risk the preservation of those two things. They don't exist. That's my opinion. I'd be okay with it. How would you feel about league realignment?
I'm taking in everything that you're saying, and it's not something that I've contemplated, quite frankly. I think my answer to the question, if I were Rob Manfred for a day, that's scary. But if I were MLB commissioner for a day, and maybe this does speak in some way to realignment, you'll tell me, is I miss the simplicity of when the wild card started.
Yeah.
Compared to how it is now. It's becoming more and more like basketball and football to me. And I am not in favor of that. I was not even pro wild card game at its inception, to be honest. And I'm a purist and a traditionalist in that way. And maybe that's a generational thing from my age, but that's what I would do.
The only thing I would say is I wouldn't chalk it up to yours or anybody's age. I think it's just that we love our game. We love our game for the way that it is. We get worried, when teams start tinkering around with it, making changes. I understand the way fans feel. Even I allow the change, but like I would be okay if they kept things the same. But if they're going to make a change, it's probably inevitable, and so why resist it? That's sort of my disposition on that. But what you say is what a lot of people would say. And listen, baseball is good right now. Baseball was even good when the wild card first came in 1995. Baseball was even good when we just had an American League East and West and a National League East and West. I don't know if baseball would really be so good now if we just had two pure leagues and only the top teams would get
Agreed.
the
Yeah,
series.
I
But
agree with you. Yeah.
but a lot of people feel that way. I think it's just our natural reaction to change, especially when things are good. When things are bad, yeah, you want to change things around. You don't want to continue.
Sure. I
Right, you
mean,
don't want to
look
continue
at the
crap.
Yankees. I'm grateful for the wild card at the moment
Yeah.
and hoping we won't have to use it and someone
Yeah.
else will have to. But the thing is, it's a money maker. This whole wild card thing became a money maker. The more wild card, games that have to be played, the more fans in seat, the more ratings on TV. It takes and it tires the team that makes it all the way out. Is the other thing. Let them come fresh off the season into the championship, and do it the old fashioned way. But I'll never be baseball commissioner, so I'll never know. So anyway,
I think we had a great show tonight. I don't know how many people
absolutely.
are there. I hope people are still watching.
Oh yeah, yep. And so to Aiden and Itchy Nuts, thank you for joining the live chat. Itchy Nuts, we did see your comment where you said that, and this is going back to when we were talking how many championships Casey Stengel led. Boone has 0, but players like him. Cashman said so. So, yep, what noted and agreed there. But Spencer, thank you as always for such a deep, rich conversation about history. Really appreciate you
This
and
was fun.
every, everyone that's listening right now. There's many of you not in the live chat but watching. Really want to thank you for joining us live, and to everyone that's going to watch the recording afterward. Thank you so much for taking the time to take this travel trip with us, and look forward to another episode coming up soon on another off day, which is when we do it for obvious reasons, I think. And please feel free, please like and share and subscribe to the Pinstripe Chronicles if you don't already. I'm from the Upper Deck Show. We go live every Sunday at 11 a.m. with my co-host Sierra and the Pinstripe Chronicle guys, Tats, Rob, and Donald. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, live at 10 a.m. So, as always, we're your Yankees fandom, and keep going because the Yankees are going to keep going, and history will move onward. So, thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
Good night.